There's a scene in the movie Shrek where Shrek the ogre goes into this town looking after Jonah, and he meets with this guy who's greeting people to the town. He gets scared because it's an ogre, and he starts to run, but instead of into the town safety, he goes to this labyrinth queue, like it looks exactly like a Disneyland line. And it's like he can't run outside the lines, even though he's scared to death. And it's just one of those things about that speaks to this, I have to follow the rules even if it seems ridiculous to do so. And the readings that we hear today are talking about our own living out of our discipleship in the context of how that is lived out. And the gospel passage today, this interchange between Jesus and the the Pharisees. We all know a bit about the Pharisee party, that they were a group of people who believed in the full living out of the law, to its very last detail. And in the book Dining with Pharisees by Father Pat Mullen, he talks about that not only did they follow the law and the Torah, but there were also kind of an oral tradition handed down by the elders. He says you won't really find this hand-washing ritual in the Torah. It's more than likely it was part of this oral tradition passed on by the elders. And so Jesus is railing against kind of this very demanding approach to following every little detail instead of looking to the heart. And in the heart is where that conversion towards God happens. And it's from the heart out that faith starts to take effect and grow and to permeate throughout all of our life. And so Jesus is trying to get at the core here, and he says, you're not looking at the core of the person. You might follow all the rules, but you're not looking to see, are you truly living out what God is asking? And if we're honest, we know that at times we've seen this in the church, where people are really just, did you do this right? Did you do that right? I was preparing a couple for marriage, and the young man told me, he says, Father, tell my girlfriend about how to make the sign of the cross and all the little prayers that go with it. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he says, when you do this little thing and you go like this, and I said, well, you're talking to the wrong person. I never learned that. That's more in a Hispanic culture. You have to ask your abuelita, because I don't know what that is. I just learned that. Okay. And so sometimes we have these other traditions and things that have been passed on, and while they're not bad, but when we emphasize that over the heart of how to live out our discipleship, then it becomes a problem. And Paul in the Galatians, the whole letter to the Galatians is talking about what is truly necessary for becoming a disciple of Christ. Is it that interior conversion of heart, or is it following these external practices? And he seems to have seen that some people are focusing on the external markings, like circumcision, without recognizing that it brings along with it everything else. He says, if you do this thing, you got to do it all. And that's a common argument that I've seen when people will pick out of Leviticus or Deuteronomy, well, it says here that you can't do this. And I said, well, yes, but it says there that you can't eat that. So are you doing that too? I mean, if you're going to pull from that one, you got to pull from that one, right? Whew. So,
Good. Keep on going.
What does it mean? First, brothers and sisters, we must look to where conversion really happens, which is in the heart. And we must attend to that in ourselves and in those around us. And the things that we do must flow from that relationship we have with God. So if we're engaged in any kind of external expression, whether it be a body posture, any kind of devotion, or any practice, that flows from this living relationship with Christ. And if we do not attend to that relationship, then the external simply become these things that are empty. And we lose contact with grace, then we just focus on whether or not we're just fulfilling all these rituals. We're going to lose connection to life itself. So we always have the clarity of vision. And the courage to continue to deepen that relationship with Christ, to continue to work on that interior life and opening our heart to the grace of God. And that let that grace flow out of every pore of our body. And let every action and every gesture and every word and every posture, just let that communicate the love of God. And that is what makes a disciple.